We're expecting the state of Nevada to dump some ballot results any minute this hour. We're seeing a heated Senate race play out there, where Republican Adam Laxalt's up about 15,000 votes, but it's not a declared win just yet because Clark County, meaning Las Vegas, still has over 50,000 more votes to count. Laxalt's margins could slim down here whenever Clark County decides it's time to count their votes.
Oh, you're wet. It's raining outside.
There are 50,000 ballots, just over 50,000 ballots that still need to be tallied. And over the course of the next 3 days, we'll get them into the system.
If we're lucky, we'll know the results in another 3 days. Nevada can't even figure out how to work their cameras at some of these polling locations. They all went dark in Washoe County last night. No big deal. I'm sure nothing illegal happened when the lights were out and the cameras were off.
Nothing illegal happened.
Over in Arizona, Blake Masters has been making some gains in the Senate race against Mark Kelly, but he's still down about 5. The governor's race, on the other hand, is a dead heat. Republican Kari Lake is pretty much neck and neck with Hobbs, and we think the remaining votes could give her a boost. But when are those votes coming in? Well, Maricopa County has about 400,000 votes left to count. Can't figure it out.
When do you anticipate the votes will be counted in total, those 400,000 plus votes?
Well, we will be going into next week. There's some onesie twosies, again, pursuant to Arizona law, but I think that we'll see the lion's share here wrap up by early next week.
Early next week, can you give me a day? We're talking Monday, or we?
Maybe, as long as you won't hold me to it.
Yeah, we don't want to hold you to it, onesies, twosies.
Yeah, can't hold
Maybe
you
we'll
to
get
it.
results by Sunday. Florida, with 3 times the
I don't know when
population,
you're gonna
got the
get
results
around
out
to it.
election night. So what's taking Arizona and Nevada so long? Well, Arizona doesn't even start counting early votes until election day.
Oh, for
they
what
want
purpose?
the drama. They
Exactly.
want delayed results. They designed
They want
it this
drama.
way. They
Preach.
start with mail-in ballots, then they count day of ballots, and then they finally get around to drop-off ballots. Heaven forbid you count everything at the same time. That'd make too much sense. And are they even counting around the clock? Of course not. Poll workers only work from 9 to 5. What's the hurry anyway? It's just an election. And when the poll workers are counting, they're opening up envelopes one by one and challenging signatures that don't match.
In Arizona, the law also allows voters to cure a signature. So
Or
because
be against
we
the law.
we have trained staff who look at every single signature that voter might have on file to find that comparison. If we aren't able to find that comparison signature, we do reach out to the voter. We call them, we text them, we email them if we have that information on file, and we send them a letter. Voters have, by law, until Wednesday at 5 p.m. to cure that signature.
Hey, Michael,
So it's not gonna
this
be
is
over
Paul
till Wednesday.
over at Maricopa County Polling Station. Can you give us a call back? It's about your signature on your ballot. Hey, Anne Marie, we're going to have to send
Kari
Paul
Lake
out a
wins
letter.
and can end that
They're
craziness.
just sitting around waiting for people to mail in a new signature. Arizona is like the girl that everybody's ready to go out to dinner and, she hasn't even showered yet. Take your time, honey. The reservation was at 7:30, but you know what? Doesn't matter. We'll go hungry. In Nevada, it's just a free-for-all come election day. They have no structure. Just like Arizona, they start counting all votes on election day, even ones that have been sitting in piles for weeks. But in Nevada, they mix them all together in a pile. The mail-in ballots are mixed in with the days of votes, which are mixed in with the drop-off ballots. Oh yeah, and they also give voters another week to fix their signatures too. So what's going on here? Elections used to be decided on election night. American Idol can handle millions of votes in a commercial break, but it takes Arizona and Nevada a week? None of it makes sense because they don't want the system to make sense. The longer some of these races drag out for, the better it is for Democrats. Because they've created a system centered around ballots, not votes. It's not about winning your vote anymore. It's not about persuading you. It's about flooding the state with as many ballots as possible and getting them filled out Democrat. And you'll never guess who's involved in the ballot game. The second gentleman, Kamala's main squeeze.
Kamala and Doug, by the way, Doug crisscrossed the country. I think he did. He spent more time making sure that the folks who actually count the votes in these states do it honestly. And thank you, pal.
Doug Emhoff is in charge of election security. Is this a joke? The vice president's
anything to
husband
do with
and
it, it
entertainment
is.
lawyer is crisscrossing the country under the radar, making sure the right people count the votes. Joe Biden's pal. It's easier to have a ballot strategy than it is to have an inflation strategy, I guess, and it works. Want to know why someone like John Fetterman was able to win? Over 1 million people in Pennsylvania voted early. You get 50 days before an election to get your ballot in. 50 days. So Democrats have a month and a half head start to work their ballots. Over 20% of all ballots in Pennsylvania came in before Election Day. The Democrats were working their tails off for those 50 days. Were the Republicans? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. Fetterman hid his condition for months. Debated a week before the election, showed he couldn't talk, but by then it didn't matter. Fetterman had banked hundreds of thousands of votes already. Democrats who voted earlier for Fetterman and saw that debate, sorry, it's too late. In Arizona, we're seeing the same thing play out. Katie Hobbs didn't even debate Kari Lake. She didn't think she had to. She was Secretary of State and she knew the game better than anyone. Arizona had about 1.5 million early ballots come in. Do you think it was because people couldn't wait to vote for Katie Hobbs? Probably the lamest candidate of this election? No. They just flooded Arizona with ballots. Katie, as the Secretary of State, is in charge of running the elections where, there happened to be an ink shortage that blew out 20% of polling machines in Maricopa County on Election Day. How does the candidate for governor get to be in charge of running the election for governor? Well, because she refused to step down and the liberal media didn't put any pressure on her. The only reason this race is tight is because Kari Lake is a great candidate. But we didn't see that play out in some of these other races where, we'll be honest, Republicans didn't put out the best candidates. And Florida got its red wave because DeSantis had a great record and a great campaign. And we found out he won that night because they count early and around the clock and knocked out the shenanigans. How do they pump these ballots out there? Well, people have to request them. Or they don't. Our producer at Primetime says he got 6 ballots sent to his old address. And he didn't request a thing. He doesn't even live in the same state anymore. And our other producer has a grandmother who would be 116 years old. She's been dead for a while, but she's been getting ballots for the last few election cycles. You can also request ballots online. Can you request ballots for friends and neighbors online? Who's checking? So what do Republicans do? They can't rely on Election Day voting anymore. You got to do something earlier. They have to get in on the early voting game. I mean the early ballot game. Because that's what's going on here. Let's turn to Kellyanne Conway, former counselor to President Trump and a Fox News contributor. I mean, does this explain what's going on here, Kellyanne?
It does, sadly. You're right. We have to bank those votes when we can. I think the Republicans are taking a chance that Grandpa can get out of the bathroom, let alone the House on Election Day, to go and vote. Why not get his vote early if we can? Look, many people like me like to show up in person and vote on the day. That's my choice. But we do know many people also in Arizona, particularly, took their ballots on Election Day, brought the ballot there rather than going inside to vote. I see 290,000 votes like that. You can't do that in Florida. Florida has a great process, Jesse. They will not accept early ballots on Election Day. So they start tallying early ballots early. And then they get those Election Day ballots, put everything together, and tell us that day who the winners are. In Georgia, they have voter ID. So they don't do this cumbersome, time-consuming, silly process of signature verification that you just heard described in such a Byzantine fashion. It's ridiculous. And by the way, I don't feel secure about that. I think the average person would say, wait a second, sometimes I scribble my signature, sometimes I do slower. And the idea that in Arizona, you have to receive the ballot, process it, and then verify the signature, and then you have time to cure is what's slowing down this process. So I think it jeopardizes the one person, one vote constitutional right enshrined in our great document. But we have solutions. Florida does a great job. Georgia does a great job. And if we just had voter ID isn't racist. Voter ID is actually efficient. because you show your ID, you vote, and Georgia requires voter ID for mail-in ballots as well. I think Florida, Ohio, Vermont in 2020 did the best job of reporting their results early, and these other folks don't. Now, Adam Laxalt, who's the front runner, and I believe the next senator in Nevada, flipping that from blue to red, will also flip that governorship from blue to red. Jesse, he put out a tweet a few hours ago. Everybody should look at that tweet. He says there's about 50,000 more votes. Of those, Catherine, well, the woman with three names and no accomplishments in Nevada, she needs 63% of those. She needs 63% of those ballots to actually win. But we may not have a Senate candidate declared the victor and certified as the winner for 2 more weeks.
It's
So
the
I just think
stupidest thing you've ever
democracy
seen.
delayed is not a good
It
idea.
really is the
And by the way, the
stupidest thing.
Democrats said democracy is on the ballot. Turns out the ballot's not even on the ballot.
Yeah.
And Jesse,
thank
you're
God
right.
Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman, is in charge of making sure honest people count the votes. I mean, when we just found out
I
that
feel
today.
better already.
I know. All right, so here's a statement
I feel better
from former
already.
President Donald Trump. And this is a scorcher. Write it, Ron DeSantis. Oh my God, a classic. Fox is all in for Governor Ron DeSanctimonious, an average Republican governor with great public relations, who didn't have to close up his state, but did, unlike other Republican governors whose overall numbers for a Republican were just average, middle of the pack, including COVID, and who has the advantage of sunshine, where people from badly run states up north would go no matter who the governor was, just like I did. When I endorsed him, it was as though, to use a bad term, a nuclear weapon went off. And then I got Ron by the star of the Democrat Party, Andrew Gillum, who was later revealed to be a crackhead, by having 2 massive rallies with tens of thousands of people at each
You
one. I
idiots.
also
Why are
fixed
you
his
going
campaign,
after Ron
which had completely
DeSantis?
fallen apart. And now Ron DeSanctimonious is playing games. The fake news asks him if he's going to run if President Trump runs, and he says, I'm only focused on the governor's race. I'm not looking into the future. Well, in terms of loyalty and class, that's really not the right answer. Your reaction, Kellyanne Conway.
It's stupid.
I guess Truth Social doesn't have the 280 character limit. I am just hearing that for the first time as you're reading it since I was studying up in Nevada and Arizona. But here's what I think. I'm glad both men, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, are in the Republican Party and have records of accomplishment that people can point to and want to emulate in their own states, and people who want to run for office because they're inspired by candidates, by leaders like them who don't back down, who get things done, and who work with a volume and a velocity. I would love to see the 2 of them up on the stage in Georgia with, I don't know, throw Brian Kemp and Mike Pence in there too. Jesse, I think we need more unity and less divisiveness in the Republican Party, because guess what? We've got the best policies and messages. We don't have unity right now. The Democrats have no
I
good
hate to
policies
see Trump
and
going
no
against DeSantis.
aspirational, hopeful,
You need to have
forward-looking
one or the
messages.
other,
But
not
they showed a
going
lot of
against
unity
each other.
last week, ginning up their base, and it paid off in some of these elections.
Yeah, I want to see
I
all
would like
hands on
everybody
deck
to
too in
unify,
Georgia.
show up in Georgia.
Yeah, but these 2
Show up in
guys,
Georgia, everybody.
these 2
Gotta
guys
get
look
this
like
done.
they are on a collision course. And the former president's already come out guns blazing. Thank you so much, Kellyanne Conway.
Afraid I'd have to pick DeSantis. Much as I
The
like
new
Trump.
House Speaker is about to join us exclusively for his first interview since the midterms. That's next. News alert, Maricopa County, Arizona, just said it will not release any more results tonight. Still waiting on Nevada. All right. We're trying to make sense of this midterm election, and as more numbers come in, the red wave is actually becoming clearer and clearer. So much so that Republicans are actually on track to win the total popular vote by 6 points. Republican candidates nationwide notched more than 50 million votes, a number far greater than the Democrats showing in 2018, a year that the Dems won about 40 House seats. Right now, the Republicans 52-46% in the House, a 6 million vote margin. So how did Republicans only manage to pick up 9 seats so far in the House? I don't know. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is poised to take Nancy's gavel, though, and primetime expects him to start wielding his power right away. Will there be investigations into the Biden crime family, the origins of COVID, and our wide-open southern
I
border?
hope so.
We hope so. But rumors out of Washington are suggesting that because of this razor-thin margin, he's going to have his hands full with the Freedom Caucus. Kevin McCarthy joins us now for his first interview since the midterm election. So I'm just going to call you Speaker and get it out of the way. So, Speaker, tell us about what happened. You get a 6 million vote margin. No one predicted that, but the House pickups aren't as big as people thought.
Well, if you look at it, what was our mission? To win the majority, to stop Biden's agenda, and fire Nancy Pelosi. All of that is accomplished. You're correct. We have 6 million more votes as of today, a higher percentage of the overall vote than we had in 2010 when we picked up 63 seats. But what you really have to look at, in 2010 we were sitting at 178. In the last 4 years, we were the only Republicans to win. When everybody thought we'd lose the last cycle, we picked up 14. Again, we'll pick up this time as well. Remember, in the House, they don't give gavels out by small, medium, and large. They just give you the gavel. And we're going to be able to govern. And on that very first day, after being sworn in, we will repeal 87,000 new IRS agents and send that to the Senate.
All right, so you're coming out of the gate strong. Tell me about the investigations, because we got to get the truth out here. This stuff with Biden and China and Ukraine, the banking records, the Treasury wire reports, we got to understand what's going on here, because that's a threat to democracy. People have to know about that. Are you on board?
100%. We've already started that. We've already requested the information to be kept. You're going to find that Jim Jordan will be chairman of Judiciary. You have Comer, chairman of Oversight and Accountability. We have a responsibility in the House to hold the government to be accountable. That means with your tax dollars. That means what's going on. Why don't we know where the origins of COVID began? Why don't we know what happened those last 60 days of Afghanistan, so we never have 13 Gold Star families again? And why don't we know why the DOJ went after parents and called them terrorists because they simply wanted to go to a school board meeting and have a say in their kids' education? But yes, those are just the start of the ability that we have in accountability. And remember, with that gavel, regardless of the number of how high or over 218 you are, you have subpoena power, and we will use it.
The president called you on the phone. How'd that go?
You know, it's kind of short. He congratulated me. So for anyone who thinks we didn't win the majority, Joe at least believes we did as well.
Okay. Was it a civil conversation, or, I mean, you guys are really going to turn up the heat? He must know that.
Yeah, well, it was short. He just wanted to call me, congratulate from that point, talk about where we can work together. Look, I said I will work with anybody that wants to put America first and move us in the right direction.
Yeah.
We've got an economy that's failing. We've got a challenge where we don't have energy independence. We not only should be energy independent, we should be selling our natural gas to our allies, but also to our adversaries. Why don't we make China dependent upon us? And you know, we need to secure our border. I laid this all out to the president and told him, I will work with you if we're willing to work on these items.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't send it to voicemail like the Saudis did. Are you concerned about your right flank? There's been some turbulence over there about handing you the gavel. What's your play there?
Look, I'm not concerned. Think about this. Since I've been leader for the last 4 years, we've only gained seats. It's the goal of winning the majority. We won the majority. I think I accomplished the goal that we wanted to. People can have input. We want to have a very open input process. We're going to have a smaller majority. So we're going to find that we work together. But think about what else we did. Not only did we win the majority, we beat the DCCC chair. That has not happened in 42 years. We won seats that Biden won by 14. We won in New York, in Oregon, in California, in Texas. We won across this nation.
What do you think the ultimate number you're going to hit in the House is going to be after they finish counting?
Well, we got to see whenever they finally finish counting. I believe we're going to pick up more seats in California even. We've got Katie Porter is a seat that I believe at the end of the day we win. We've got new stars from Jen Kiggins in Virginia Beach. You go down along the border, Monica De La Cruz to Detroit, John James to Wesley Hunt in Houston. This party has expanded like we've never seen before. And these are new, fresh faces that are going to be rock stars in the Republican Party for the future.
All right, Speaker McCarthy, thank you so much for coming on Prime Time.
Thank you, Jesse.
It may all come down to Herschel Walker's runoff in Georgia. And he's running behind his lead blocker, Ted Cruz. They're turning the corner. Join us next. Fox News alert. Based on what we talked about earlier on in the show, we might not know who won the Senate races in Nevada and Arizona until next week. So in the meantime, control of the Senate could depend on what happens in Georgia. Neither Herschel Walker or Raphael Warnock hit the 50% voting threshold on Tuesday. So, once again in Georgia, there's going to be a runoff in December. Senator Ted Cruz is joining Herschel Walker this week on the campaign trail, and they both join me live right now. All right, Herschel, are you feeling any pressure? This could all come down to Georgia.
Well, to be honest with you, I feel no pressure because I was built for this. And I'm ready to go out and win this seat because I'm fighting for the people. This has nothing to do with Herschel Walker. I'm fighting for the people because Senator Warnock has done everything against the Georgia people. He's voted against them. He gave crime to them. He gave them inflation. He put men and women in sports. So I'm going out fighting for the people.
Are you going to do anything differently this time around than you did last time?
Well, the only thing I'm going to do different is go into some of the places that I didn't get the votes to make sure I get those votes. Because they need to know that I'm there for them. I think Senator Warnock has proven who he's there for. He voted with Joe Biden 96% of the time. And those people need to realize what has he done since he's been in office. Do they have more money in their pocket? No. Do they have, look at their utility bill. Look at the things he's done since he's been in office. And I got to show them that, and I got to let them see that because he's a hypocrite. And being a pastor, I say this, how can he keep the almighty oath to the almighty God, and he keep it for them, he hadn't kept it for nobody. So that proves the type of man he really is.
All right, so Cruz, you're the lead blocker here. You're going to have to open up some holes for Herschel.
Scratching.
What's your strategy going to be? This is down to the wire.
Well, look, I think the stakes are enormous. Once again, the fate of the country depends on Georgia. And so for the men and women of Georgia, I think they're energized. We're here to rally right now. We got over 2,000 people that are here right now that have come out to support Herschel. Herschel's going to win this race. And I got to say, the odds are very high that control of the Senate is going to come down to Georgia. That means all across this country, it makes a huge difference whether you live in Georgia or you don't. What happens here? The election's on December 6th. I'll say to every person in Georgia, the country's counting on you. Come out, bring your friends, bring your family, bring your loved ones. You are standing up and defending the people of Texas. And to everyone else, right now, please go to TeamHerschel.com. TeamHerschel.com. Make a contribution. They're going to spend millions and millions of dollars trying to attack this good man. It's not going to work. But it is going to be incumbent on all of us to stand up and say, look, the country is ready to turn away from the insanity, from the crime, from the inflation, from the open borders, from the corruption, from the abuse of power of the radical socialists that have taken over the Democrat Party. And I'm here to tell you, Jesse, Herschel Walker's going to win this race. All right, now, is you guys going to have DeSantis there to campaign for you? You're going to have Donald Trump there to campaign? Are you going to bring in the heavy hitters like the Democrats did?
Well, I'm bringing in everybody. Everybody that's going to help me to win this seat back for the great people of Georgia because they deserve this seat. Senator Warnock went to Washington. He forgot all about the Georgia people. Well, I'm not. The Georgia people, all of them, my family, no matter what the color of their skin, the only thing Senator Warnock see is black. He don't see that there's other people that live here as well. You know, he make a statement like America need to apologize for its whiteness. You make a statement like, you know, America, the biggest problem with them is racism. Why don't he get out of racism and learn redemption, learn forgiveness, learn to move on, and let's make this country better together. We can't divide this country. We got to come together, and that's how we make it better.
All right, and your new name is TeamHerschel.com, right? Is that the new name?
That is it. I want everyone to go to TeamHerschel.com. Become a part of Team Herschel.
And Jesse, let me extend an invitation in particular. I want to invite Joe Biden to come campaign for Raphael Warnock. I want to invite Kamala Harris to come campaign for Raphael Warnock. I want to invite Stacey Abrams to come campaign for Raphael Warnock. Their agenda is radical, and it doesn't reflect the values of the people of Georgia. That's why Herschel Walker's going to win.
All right, maybe we can send Beto to Georgia as well. Thank you guys very much, and tell everybody in Georgia, Primetime says hi.
Thank you.
The media is now saying John Fetterman should be president.
My name is John Fetterwoman.
But I was shocked by what happened in Pennsylvania this week. John Fetterman is going to be a senator. Now, that in and of itself concerns me, and I've been saying for a while that this guy's going to get eaten alive in D.C. But maybe I'm missing something, because listen to what the media is saying now.
Fetterman as a nominee at some point for president. I know there's some variables, obviously, but just a few. The way that he ran ahead of Biden, as you were saying, ran ahead of Trump. I mean, it makes you wonder about his future.
President? He hasn't even been sworn in yet, and all of a sudden he's the next Obama? What exactly did you see on the campaign trail that made you think, you know what, this guy is presidential timber?
Here's what I think we have to fight about inflation here right now. That's what we need to fight about inflation. We all have to make sure that everyone that works is able to, that's the most American bargain, that if you work full-time, you should be able to live in dignity as well. True. Going to those kind of vocational schools, able to create a career to Wayne, reach a lot of high salary, and again, supporting, reduce those costs are critical too.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Here he comes. Adam Carolla is a comedian and host of Truth Yeller. I mean, do you think the Democrats are onto something here, Adam?
Well, they do this all the time, right? I mean, they did it with Biden. Biden was locked in his basement. They didn't know what his policies were. They did it with Beto O'Rourke, Stacey Abrams. Remember the name Michael Avenatti?
Yes.
Remember when these same people were swooning over Michael Avenatti 3 years ago? Yep. They're like teeny boppers who get caught up with the next Tiger Beat sensation and put the poster on the wall.
They want something new, and they don't want it to have any history at all. And they don't even really care what the candidate believes in, as long as the candidate is new and is fresh and does what you tell it to do.
But it's also a real sign of the times, which is they don't even know what his policies are. I don't think anyone knows what his policies are. I don't think he knows what his policies are. Is he for fracking? Is he against fracking? All they know is he had a stroke and he was being picked on. And although that's the way they couched it, I don't think he was being picked on. People are just being realistic and trying to vet somebody. But he, in a weird way, it was fortuitous because all we did was focus on the stroke and how mean Dr. Oz was, and nobody focused on his horrible Bernie Sanders-esque policies.
You know, you're exactly right. He became a victim. And Democrats love victims. And they found out a way to run a victim for president now. Is this just a one-off line on a cable show, or do you think this could actually happen?
I would be surprised, but you know, with the new narrative that we love the victim and we love the intersectional status and we're looking for everyone's status in this horrible victim society we built, well then why not elect the biggest victim to the highest land in the office or in the country?
And his wife is a bisexual Brazilian immigrant, so it's checking all kinds of boxes. Adam Carolla, the old Yeller. Go check it out. Truth Yeller. Guess how much money Joe Biden is spending on an electric ferry that nobody wants?
This new electric ferry is going to cost $50 million.
That's a lot of money.
Idiots. What for?
Most of the country isn't happy with the direction we're heading in. Biden says they're wrong, though. They just don't realize how great the infrastructure bill is yet.
The problem is, the major piece of legislation we passed, and some of it bipartisan, takes time to be recognized. For example, you got You got over $1 trillion worth of infrastructure money.
Yeah, $1 trillion
Not that many
waste.
spades have been put in the ground. Is there anybody who wants us to walk away from building those roads and bridges and the internet?
How about rebuild our electrical grid, harden it from a nuclear
But
bomb,
we have to know, where's all the cash
fix it
going?
so they can charge our
Where are the
electric
roads
cars,
and bridges? Where's
idiot.
the internet? Well, we found one project in Arizona, a $25 million
He wants us to walk away from building those roads and bridges and the internet.
We recognize you, Joe, and we recognize the $1 trillion we spent. But we have to know, where's all the cash going? Where are the roads and
In the
bridges?
ground,
Where's the
the
internet?
rock.
Well, we found one project in Arizona, a $25 million anti-racist birdwatching bridge in the middle of nowhere. Folks
Anti-racist.
there didn't really seem to appreciate it.
It's an absolute waste of money.
It is definitely
Not
a
racist
place
against
that
blackbirds,
I would
I guess.
build a footbridge.
Probably, like most programs at that time, a gigantic waste of money, the proverbial bridge to nowhere.
But that's not all. We visited another project, a $20 million heated sidewalk in New Hampshire. And the people in that town weren't that thrilled either.
We do not need heated sidewalks on Main Street. There's hardly any stores there.
The money could probably be used toward something more beneficial.
It's the stupidest thing they ever came out with.
We're not done
Freeze
yet.
and turn to ice.
This week we went to rural Washington State to check out his latest vital project. It's a $50 million electric ferry. You're paying a big chunk of that bill. And it'll be shuttling people on and off Loomy Island, and only 900 people live there. They don't have any streetlights or gas stations, they don't need them. But somehow, they need a $50 million electric hybrid ferry. A ferry is pretty important if you live on an island. It's the only way to get on and off. But they already have one. It's been working for years, but there's a problem. It runs on diesel, and that's not allowed under this administration. Everybody needs to be electric, no matter what the cost. But keep in mind, this island gets a lot of its electricity from coal. So this thing isn't even really green. It runs on coal. But Mayor Pete says it's time to bury the old ferry in a landfill.
In rural Washington State, a ferry is the only way to get to Loomy Island, but the ferry is generations old. People's cars are often damaged just using it, and it's down a lot of the time. So we're helping them replace it, and the new ferry will be an electric battery hybrid.
Ooh, all of a sudden the old ferry is dangerous and unreliable. Something's not adding up. So we went to Loomy Island to find out if they're excited about
Probably work
scrapping their
forever.
boat
It's still
and
good.
spending millions on an electric one.
Nothing wrong with it at all.
They're getting rid of this ferry, and they're buying a brand new electric ferry. Are you excited?
No, I like this one. You know, it's more reliable than diesel. I mean, it's powered the world now for over 100 years.
I don't like the electric ferry idea. I want to keep this small ferry. This boat can go forever. This is a small island with only 1,000 people.
And we've been out there in some really big wind, and I think it's pretty darn safe.
Do you think this ferry needs to be replaced?
Oh, because of age? I guess I needed to be replaced.
A guy.
I've never had a problem with it. Never heard of anybody had a problem with it. Davey, you know of any major issues there?
How much do you think the new electric ferry is going to cost?
I have no idea. Millions. I know it's a lot. Probably way more than I could even guess.
I'm sure it's way up there.
It's going to be a hell of a lot of money. Millions.
$50 million.
That's a lot of money.
We'll be paying for it for a long time. Let's just print some more paper. We're good at it now.
I'm not utterly convinced that it's worth what we're spending. It feels like an expensive big jump up.
A lot of your island gets its power from coal. That doesn't sound too great.
Coal, huh? Nobody thinks about where the electricity comes from.
It's not as green as you hope.
I'm just not 100% convinced that it is that much more efficient.
Everything from electric cars to electric ferries. It is a problem. You have to remember how it gets to the place where you plug it in.
Charlie Hertz, a Fox News contributor and opinion editor at the Washington Times, and is our special correspondent when it comes to Biden's boondoggles. So, you've seen the anti-racist birdwatching bridge, the heated sidewalks that homeless people now sleep on, and now we have a $50 million electric ferry to an island that 816 people live on, Charlie.
first of all, you got to give kudos to President Biden. I love the fact that, he's been in Washington for 50 years, but next month, it's all going to come up roses. And finally, we're going to love what he does next month. It's all going to work out now. But $50 million for a new ferry, you could take every homeless drug addict in Seattle and put them in a mansion with a pool with $50 million, but he would rather do this. But here's the one good thing about an electric ferry, Jesse. If the batteries get wet and the things catch on fire, the way we've seen with all those Teslas down in Florida, you just have to sink it. You don't even have to call the fire department to spend 8 hours trying to put it out. You just pull the plug on it and sink it.
Yeah,
It's
what
so
do the people
funny.
do
If
that are
you're
stranded on the ferry?
Resident of Long
Swim?
Island, and you hear that Joe Biden's going to spend $50 million on you. You got to be thinking, all right, this is going to be great. What are we
Be
going
a
to
long
get?
ways to swim.
And they say, well, we're going to replace your ferry with an electric ferry for $50 million.
Yeah.
It's the last thing these people want.
Yeah, and of course, when you're talking about Washington
Typical
State, you're talking
Democrat.
about Puget Sound, you're talking about anything. These people, for them, ferries it's their way of life. It's how they get around. Ferries for them are like diesel pickup trucks where I'm from. You don't mess with these things. They can't break down. They can't get stranded because you've got some idea that you can have a ferry that is run on unicorns and fairy dust. They have to actually work all the time, and diesel is what works all the time.
Well, I guess the ferry they had was racist, so it had to go to the landfill. This is a really, really wicked release that Trump just dumped on Ron DeSantis. Have you
They
read
need
it?
to
I
keep
mean,
that
the guy
ferry
just calls
somewhere
him
for
not
backup.
classy, ungrateful. He said he closed down the state of Florida. Said the only reason people flocked there during COVID was because it had a lot of sunshine.
They'll make them
What do you make of this now?
get rid of that ferry.
And
They'll
if
have
you
to
like politics,
destroy it.
this is going to be the greatest cage match of all time. I mean, this is what I'm here for. It's and in a good
Trump's
way.
really being
This is
stupid.
going to make both of these men such better
DeSantis
political
has got too much
candidates.
class.
I know it's ugly. I know it's tough. And it's going to be really entertaining. And you're going to have a bunch of Republicans clutching their pearls and weeping and gnashing their teeth. But this is a fight that had to happen. It's going to happen. It's starting now, apparently. And it's going to be epic.
Thought he was a
And
counterpuncher.
both one man is going to come
Idiot.
out stronger, the other is going to come out weaker. But the man that comes out stronger is going to be a much better candidate and will win the next election.
All right, Charlie Hurt, thank you so much.
I
And
like
we're going to have another
DeSantis a
piece
lot.
with Charlie in a couple weeks, whatever Biden's been
Wish
spending his
Trump
money on.
not
Thank you.
start acting like that.
All right, just a little scheduling update. Next Wednesday and Thursday, I'm not going to be in New York. I'm going to be in Florida for the Patriot Awards. We're going to be giving some awards to some veterans that deserve it, and I'm going to be there with the Five and the Primetime team, and we're probably going to send Johnny to the Atlantic Ocean and have him jump in and snorkel or something like that, so we'll bring that to you as well. Let's do text messages. Greer from Rhode Island. Democracy must be really important if they're calling in Doug Emhoff to save it. We're going to have a Doug Emhoff report tomorrow night because we want to know what the second gentleman does all day besides saving democracy. Mary from North Carolina, we always hear about Kamala. I want to hear more about Doug since he's saving elections, Jesse. Stay tuned. Ross from Utica, New York. Let the casino managers count the votes in Nevada and Arizona. They know what they're doing. Oh, they sure do. And I have a feeling the casino managers are the ones counting the votes already. Larry from Lansing, Michigan. Hey, Jesse, does crow taste anything like alligator? Are you saying that I made predictions that didn't come true? That's impossible. Arthur, Trump and DeSantis co-presidents, problem solved. We don't really do that. We do a president and a vice president. But it is interesting what Charlie said, that they just have to fight it out and the stronger one's going to survive. Cleon from Cross Lanes, West Virginia. Is it true that Judge Jeanine hurt her arm by slapping Greg Gutfeld in the green room? If she slapped Greg in the green room, Greg would probably not be here for 3 weeks. That's all for tonight. Tucker's next. Always remember, I'm Waters, and this is my world.